Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking Heartland. This is a show where we're looking at back episodes of the Heartland TV show, and we are into season 12. It's very exciting. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner. Michelle's here.
Hey, everyone.
Can you believe it? We're finally made it to the short seasons, the shorter seasons, I should say.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even just looking at these episodes, they feel so recent, and they are. It's like 2019. It sort of feels like we've been stuck in the past for for such a long time. But yeah, it's crazy how quickly we've gone through these.
Yeah, but it also feels like we've done it forever. We've been doing this.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it feels like we raced through them, and then when we look back, we're like, oh my god, like we've been doing this for such a long time.
Yeah, you had no idea what you were signing up for. But season 12, season 11 was kind of rough, and so
timely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're excited to get to season 12. You can tell that they are still playing this game of the rotating cast members a little bit with this. So somebody all of a sudden has to go to Istanbul desperately, despite the fact that just a few months before she couldn't give her employees bonuses and had to make wreaths. Now she's flying all the way to Istanbul at a moment's notice.
Yeah, she's just been a travel companion. Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll talk more about that. So episode 1 is Dare to Dream. And this is the starting out our season. It's Amy and Ty care for a wild mare and her foal, which provides a solution to their parenting problems. So overall, what did you think about this episode?
I really like this. I really liked all 3 episodes. It really does feel like a lot of people had issues with season 11. Because even in this episode, like a lot of the conversations that Amy and Ty have, it was conversations we've been waiting on for like seasons. It just feels like ever since Lindy was sort of a part of their lives, it feels like Ty was sort of not present and off on his adventures, and Amy was sort of blissfully happy with that, and it just made no sense as like what we know of Amy and just the situation that she was in. It just felt quite inauthentic. So it felt nice to sort of finally have those conversations, and it sort of feels like most aspects of the show are going back to sort of the basics. We've got horse stories in this, which I couldn't believe, like multiple horse stories. So it really sort of kicked off very positively for me.
Well, and I mentioned last time that one of the things that you always found with the Cosby Show was that they were always inventing weird, ridiculous reasons for the older children to be forced to live at the house, and because you needed people in the house in order to tell the stories, right? So they'd come up with ridiculous reasons that Sandra and Janice had to stay in the house. And I feel like we're kind of getting that too with Heartland. It's that now it's Tim. There's always there's always these reasons that they come up with to get this house extremely full.
It's like teen shows where they sort of, like Dawson's Creek, where they get to sort of season 5 and have to figure out how to keep them all in the same small town.
Yeah.
Even though they all have like vastly different dreams and aspirations. Coming up with all of these creative ways of like, well, this person had to go to like a community college, and this person decided to skip, and this it just was. Sort of a big fan of the. I'm a big fan of the sort of the time jump. They just sort of skip years. They did that in One Tree Hill. They just sort of skipped college. That way it made more sense to have them all sort of back in the one place. It's it's hard
Yeah,
with a
that's a
show
good
like this. It's
idea.
a little bit easier because it is family, and you know they would probably want to stick together a little bit more. But yeah, um, it feels a lot more settled this season.
Yeah. Well, it starts out with Amy working with this horse named Bandit,
Hmm.
and Bandit has big trust issues. For some reason, they want to make it a trail horse, the owners. I don't really understand exactly why. It almost seems like it's more of a bronc.
Yeah, it seems to have a little bit more sort of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they want to sort of have it be very calm, and yeah, I don't really understand how you sort of remove that sort of personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just seems like a very sort of spirited, sort of active horse, and you know, it feels like you would sort of purchase the horse based on its sort of I guess for a better word, but like personality, it's sort of you know attitude. You wouldn't pick
Yeah.
a horse that's got a lot of attitude. It's you know you're just wanting it to be a trail ride.
And you can tell I've been covering Heartland for 12 years
Yeah,
well,
you're an
12
expert.
seasons. It feels like 12 years. I've been covering Heartland that I know, oh, that's a bronc and that's a jumper. And that's because I definitely didn't know that before covering this show. That's for sure. And yeah, Amy is struggling with balancing everything in her life, which is, I think, the struggle of being an adult. It's really
Yeah.
hard, you know, making sure that you get everything kind of done and everybody take care of. I've said it many times before. I have absolutely no work-life balance, zero, none. And it is hard when you live at your work. I mean, it's a huge blessing and I would never want it any other way, but
Uh-huh.
you kind of have to a certain extent, you kind of have to throw the idea of balance completely out. When you live at your work, it's always there. It's always
Uh-huh.
staring at you in the face. You always know there's something to be done. And
Hmm.
it's challenging.
Yeah, and Amy doesn't have sort of any sort of schedule. You know, she doesn't know if she's going to be working with a horse sort of one day to the next or sort of one week to the next. You know, she has emergencies. You know,
Yeah.
she has, you know, urgent cases. She has sort of, you know, dry spells. And it's like, well, how is she supposed to be, you know, a full-time coach, a full-time mum, and sort of a full-time sort of, you know, horse whisperer? You know, that was things that we sort of questioned last season.
Mm-hmm.
With Amy sort of having all of these um, different interests and different jobs and different things that she had to deal with. Yeah, it wasn't being addressed, so I sort of liked
Yeah.
that it was being addressed right off the bat.
Yeah, I do too. And she says, this is not who we are, not a traditional family. They're not sharing raising Lindy like they had hoped. The
Hmm.
one thing I would say is I feel like with two incomes and not having a mortgage, I assume, with the, you know, the apartment, I don't understand why they can't afford a at least a babysitter, like
Yeah,
if not an actual nanny.
yeah, and not even something like full time. You know, a few days a week to sort of help out and take the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that would make more sense. But yeah, I do like that they sort of mentioned the sort of you know relying on the grandparents quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Ty sort of you know you know at least he's not off to you know a different continent this time. He's sort of around, but yeah, just sort of you know off to work and sort of switching off, and then you know, but Amy's you know there 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, who would
Um,
think that becoming a veterinarian would require such jet setting,
yeah, seriously.
high high travel career?
Yeah, yeah. And by the looks of it, he's running that entire veterinary practice by himself.
Yeah, we haven't seen Cass for a while.
17 Cass, 17 Scott. No, see, us got a little bit last
Hmm.
season.
Yeah, with that pencil and mustache.
Yeah, yeah. Let's not see that again.
So we also have in this episode, Premier Equestrian wants to interview Georgie, and she's nervous about it because of everything that happened with the gossip site. But she's like a star.
Yeah. So it sort of seems that they're not letting go of this Olympic dream. It feels like that's something that they're going to continue. So we'll see how that goes.
I do have to say, I feel like in these 3 episodes, they're continuing on making Georgie kind of irritating for me. She's very entitled. I feel like seems like she feels like she's owed all of this stuff. And I don't know, I just not my favorite arc, I guess, for Georgie.
Yeah. It sort of feels like she's telling the professionals how to do their job quite a bit. And it's like, if you're wanting to get into the Olympics, you should really listen to the people that have gone on that journey before and gotten people there. I'm not really sure how it works in terms of, what horse you take and what all these different sort of things, but it feels like Georgie's getting a lot of incredible opportunities, and still sort of questioning it all along.
Yeah. And I understand that's that those teenage years are fraught with peril and difficulties, but it just makes for a little bit of a grating character.
Yeah.
So then we have a little bit of Lou flirting with Mitch, and she's evidently extremely fine with the fact that Katie is in Vancouver with Peter for like a long time. I would probably be a little, I want to see my child more than she's seen her child here.
Yeah.
Like a little visit is one thing, but it seems like we're talking many weeks.
Yeah, it's a little difficult because it's like what was said over and over again. It feels like Lou is doing the exact same thing that Peter did that ended their marriage, and it's sort of continuing.
She says
this sort of back and forth. We still have no idea what's happening with New York. She sort of seems done with it, and then sort of more interested again. And yeah, it's just it feels like that's something that will always be there as a way to take the actress out of the show when she's not available.
Yeah, she says Katie's all grown up and flew to see her dad all alone. And I'm like,
she's still pretty young.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think she's even, how old is she? What, like 6, 7? Something like that?
Yeah, around that.
I guess she's finished parenting. She's
Yeah.
done. Good job. Yeah. How do you feel about Lou and Mitch? Do you feel the chemistry?
I thought they had chemistry, like insane chemistry, the first couple of seasons that they sort of hinted at them. I feel like last season did a lot of damage. The sort of back and forth, and I feel like Kevin is someone that would probably have chemistry with most people, but yeah, it feels a little bit of a struggle. Whereas originally, like I was all in on them. I thought the chemistry just sort of bounced off the screen. It was sort of crazy. Sort of the most chemistry we've seen on the show in a long time. But yeah, it just sort of feels like last season it did a lot of damage, and it feels like I really don't like this sort of slow burn where it is sort of back and forth and sort of misinterpreting things, and it feels like we see Mitch have a different love interest, and it just feels like that character has been set up to be hurt in some way. So yeah, it just sort of feels, it doesn't feel as exciting as it first did.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice if we gave Lou an actual romance for once. Like with Peter, it was all so fast that they got together and all this, and then it was like immediate conflict pretty much from the start. And then with Mitch, I mean, I swear that it seems like they've hardly gone on a date. They got on the one date that was terrible at the very beginning. But other than that, they really spent any real time together. We've had kisses, we've had, we hear about the fact that they are texting and stuff like that, but it would be nice for Lou to get like a real romance.
It feels like that's sort of a problem with the show. It feels like Amy and Ty got that and no one else. You know, I guess we got a little bit with Jack and Lisa in the beginning, but yeah, it feels like the majority of the romances is sort of like they really like each other, and then we sort of jump to a relationship with a lot of issues. So yeah, you don't really get the sort of swoony, fun parts on this show as much.
Yeah. So we find out that Tim has sold or is selling Big River. He says, I made a list of things I need and don't need. And then Big River was on the don't need thing. I do feel like having Tim move in to Heartland Ranch is a fun idea. I feel like that's going to be entertaining between him and Jack. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. And you're losing sort of Lisa, and Amy's not in the house as much, and Georgie's grown up, so it sort of adds a little bit of energy into the house. So I think it'll be fun.
And Lou sees Mitch and Tim both at the jewelry store, and Tim might be looking at engagement rings. And so Lou's like, when the next episode, she's like freaking out, like what's happening with Tim and Casey, which they had been broken up. So it's probably a stretch to go to engagement rings, but nevertheless, we have both of these men looking for engagement rings.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like I would never want an engagement to be a surprise. I would want to know that it's happening.
Yeah, you would want to at least be on the same page of like, this is where we're going. Make the actual time and when it happens a surprise, but not the actual fact that you want to be engaged.
And I absolutely would not want it to be in public. Absolutely not.
No. Absolutely not. No. No.
I swear I would say no.
That would just show that your partner doesn't actually know you.
Right. Yeah, I think the perfect would be, well, my parents used to live in California, so I used to say that it would be perfect to do like a road trip, visit the folks and do it there, like at a basically kind of family setting, but I don't know, just something like that, not like a megaphone or whatever at a sports. That would be my nightmare.
God, no. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, it feels like that's more about the spectacle than it is about the actual engagement.
Yeah. So we also have in this episode, we also have Jack and Ty finding a wild horse and a foal, and they're injured. The horse got injured on the barbed wire, and the foal is stuck on the bridge, a broken bridge. And I'm always amazed, I've said it so many times, how they're able to get these horses to do what they do. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, especially the foal. I mean, it's such a little baby, and they're able to sort of get it to look so close. I mean, I was worried that it wasn't alive when Ty got to it originally, because it just looked so sort of out of it. But yeah, like, it's so incredible what they're able to do.
Yeah. And you still see the appropriate kind of awe and a little bit of fear in dealing, especially these wild
Yeah,
horses, and with Amber um, and the whole cast do a great job with that.
yeah, yeah. Whether they're actual, wild horses or not, but the way they're able to sort of get them to act that way, and be in such close quarters to the
Mm-hmm.
actors, they must have obviously be able to do it in a safe way, but yeah, it certainly looks pretty close on screen.
Yeah, yeah. This episode is directed by Chris Potter, actually.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah, he's done a number of them. It seems like at this
Yeah,
point.
seems like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is also written by Heather Conkey, and then Ty and Amy decide that they're going to go into business together, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it feels like this is something that they've sort of held off for such a long time. It feels like, but the second sort of Ty, decided that he was going to be a vet, this is something that was talked about. So it's sort of nice to see this actually happen now. And just sort of glancing through the sort of episode description for the season, it looks like Ty's around quite a bit. So
Yeah,
hopefully we actually do see them, build this business and really sort of become a team.
yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like if I was needing to have my horse taken care of, that would be very appealing to having the
Yeah,
vet right there on site.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And this sort of like, I mean, I know that the sort of vet that I use, they're very homeopathic and very sort of, they don't, drugs aren't an answer to everything, different
Mm-hmm.
sort of therapies and different sort of herbal remedies, they sort of consider everything. And I imagine that's, very appealing to,
Yeah,
animal owners. It's and even if you don't believe in things like horse whispering, the idea that there's a vet there, like you say, it's very appealing.
yeah. She said, I wouldn't change anything except having you around more. And I think that
Yeah,
we are,
she's
because of
speaking for the audience there.
yeah, right. And I think that the pandemic has caused a lot of people to realize they could work from home and
Hmm.
that they enjoy it. I think it's changed a lot of people's outlook on that. Obviously, certain jobs you have no choice but to go into the office, but when you can, I think it's a great way to live. I mean, in my opinion, at least. Again, you have that problem of your work is always kind of staring you in the face, so it has its downsides. But especially if you or a parent, I think it would be really great to just be able to be there. I mean, I grew up with my dad working from home, and he was always there. You could always pop in, and it probably drove him crazy. But I definitely feel like I got to see my dad a lot more than some of my peers. Where if the dad is gone,
Hmm.
8 to 12 hours a day, you hardly get to see him. And so I think it's a really nice way to live. So
Yeah,
it's a
for sure. Yeah,
good thing for Amy Ty.
yeah, yeah. It's
So
not
Lou,
possible for me, but yeah, like so
yeah,
many friends I've had during this time have just talked about how their mental health is so much better and
yes,
how many hours they're getting back that they would spend traveling to and from work, and they're healthier because they're eating better, like all of these different things that um
mm,
it would it's upsetting to think that things are just sort of going to go back to normal now,
right,
when all of the benefits were so sort of evident during that time.
yeah, yeah. It's like, why can't we take the good that from this kind of horrible experience? We could take
Hmm.
some good from it and learn.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. And some things I think have gotten better. Like I think the whole virtual healthcare is a huge plus to that people can see a doctor just online and not have to go out and risk infecting everybody. But then also that there, I think a lot of people are more likely to actually get treatment because it's easy and it's less intimidating than going into the doctors. You can do it in a more affordable way. I mean, I just think it's a great win for like everybody. I think that's the best takeaway that we got from the pandemic is virtual healthcare. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, so Lou is considering selling her share of the Maggie's NYC. So evidently this thing is thriving. It's doing great.
Yeah, I don't believe it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's doing so well that it's barely off the ground. It's doing so well that, Lou's going to sell out and sort of be set for life.
It's the new like IHOP.
Yeah, I don't believe
Denny's.
Yeah, and also like we've learned a little bit about Maggie's in these last few episodes of, all of the meat comes from Heartland. I can't imagine that's the same for the one in New York.
Right.
So
Yeah,
the idea
evidently
that it's all homegrown, just not an actual franchise, just the original.
they evidently have a lot more cows than we realized. they've and now they've sold Big River, so they don't even have that.
Yeah, I don't know what happens to all of their cattle then.
Yeah, I don't know. So Georgie decides to go ahead and meet with the reporter, and she talks about talks about Lou and talks about Marion and Amy, and this is all these women are my mentors. That was very sweet.
Yeah, that was a good way to end the episodes. It just feels it feels like I said, back to basics, what we love about the show.
And so we also find out that Mitch is dating again. And did Lou think that he was buying a ring for her? Because they weren't even dating.
Yeah, it sort of seems like a crazy leap.
Yeah.
Originally I thought, oh, she thinks that he's buying her a gift of some kind. I didn't think, but the idea that,
like a necklace or something.
Yeah, like a bracelet or something. Like the idea that she actually thought that he was going to propose, when like you said, they've been there on a handful of dates and they've broken up like 3 times.
Yeah.
It's in such a short time. So yeah, I guess it makes sense a little bit for Lou. She does tend to jump to conclusions quite a bit, but yeah, it's all seems crazy.
Yeah. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
I would give it an 8.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. Good score. I agree.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode. It's Baker Publishing Group. If you're looking for your next summer read, check out Where the Road Bends from author Rachel Fordham. In a desperate bid to save her family's land, Norah King agrees to marry a man she barely knows. But just days before the wedding, she comes across a badly injured stranger who upends all her plans and steals her heart along the way. For more information on Rachel and her books, go to www.rachelfordham.com. That's www.rachelfordham.com.
All right. So then we have the next episode is called Hearts Run Free. And it's Amy and Ty plan a romantic trip to Pike River, but Jack tags along to visit an old friend. And it is also directed by Chris Potter. So double duty this time. And overall, what did you think of this episode?
I didn't love the Lisa plot. It just felt a little strange, and I'm sort of over this whole idea that every time she wants to travel, it's a conflict.
Right.
But yeah, I really liked the horse story. I loved Will in this episode. Like just seeing the development of that character over the course of all of these seasons has been, a joy to watch. So yeah, there's a lot I like about this episode. Overall very positive, but yeah, the Lisa stuff was kind of like out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah. I especially when you consider, like I said, that just a couple episodes ago, she couldn't afford to
Yeah,
give
she was being
anybody,
audited and
getting audited. She couldn't afford to give any bonuses, making Reese. But now she's evidently able to go off to Istanbul at a moment's notice, which is not cheap. A flight like that, you're going to spend at least $1,200, at least. So I don't know. I mean, if Aunt Evelyn needs her so badly, then she really should pay for her plane flight.
yeah, I would hope that would be the case.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Jack and Lisa, they have a really nice relationship, but it is kind of a tired plotline at this point with her traveling and it, at a certain point he says, well, I'll go with you and well, I'm going to travel too. And turns out he's really just talking about going to Pike River.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
it just feels like it's something that they made peace with and that Jack was very accepting of. I understand it's a little bit of a different situation. It's not, a business trip. It's, being a travel companion.
Yeah.
And this idea, I mean, we've seen Evelyn. We know that she's not she's not the most stand-up sort of, type of person, but the idea that she's, manipulative and, doing this just to get Lisa out there, we don't really know what's going on there. But yeah, it seemed a little bit difficult to believe that Lisa just had to go out there to travel because why?
Yeah, no, it did. I agree. We also have Lou. She keeps calling Tim. She's freaking out. She wants to know what's going on. And it was kind of cute. I liked that. Like it was a little funny and cute because I would be the same. I mean, if I knew that anybody in my family was proposing, I would be like, what's happening? I would
I do think it's hilarious that she was able to sort of hold the secret for so long because it's so the opposite of what Lou would do. Like she would spill the beans.
Yeah. It's I guess they couldn't get Casey because it would have been interesting to have seen. I mean, he didn't actually propose, but it would have been kind of interesting to see their conversations at least, or some kind of. I mean, I'd love for them to get engaged because I like them as a couple.
I do like them as a couple, but I do think he was really awful to her.
Yeah.
Even though he was going through his own health issues. I don't think that excuses his behaviour towards her. But yeah, it would be nice to have sort of a clean break and sort of know that it's either, a possibility that, they may continue a relationship or if it is completely done. Yeah, it would be nice to sort of have her back and just sort of end that storyline if that's the way it's going.
Yeah, or maybe get somebody else. I was thinking about it, that it is kind of funny that they have just like completely forgot about the fact that Tim has a son. Like,
Yeah.
it's out there.
Yeah.
I forget his name. What was it? Trent or something? What was his name? I can't even think of the name. It's been so long.
Yeah. Shane. Is it Shane?
Shane.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
Shane.
I think I remembered that, Shane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like 25 now.
Yeah. So I, for some reason, I don't know why, I thought Will had had died. I thought he had the last time we saw him, it was at the Hall of Fame ceremony, and that was the impression I got, that he had like a terminal illness or something.
I think he had a lot of health issues that he had under control, but Jack sort of was worried that he didn't. Yeah, I think he was sort of in a good place in terms of getting his health under control, getting his life under control, and his drinking and sort of etc. But yeah, it seems like I think they sort of tried to. It was a little bit of a red herring because they sort of laid out the fact that he had medication and he was coughing, and that's always like a that's always like a signal of like someone's dying in a show. I think it was a sort of a little bit of a red herring that didn't actually come to anything.
Yeah, I guess so. I was glad to see him. I think that pretty much all the episodes with him and up at Pike River have been really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
so
that
I
was
think the
fun.
last,
I was like, oh, you're
yeah,
still alive.
yeah. I mean, the last time we saw that he was going to try and sort of reconcile things um with his ex, so it seems like that's worked out to the point that he's like really cleaned himself up. Seems all
Yeah.
dressed up just on a daily basis now.
So Georgie tells Amy that she's thinking about switching coaches, which I feel like makes total sense. You need like a real professional coach if you're going to the Olympics.
Yeah, you need a full-time coach at that point.
Yeah.
You need someone that's, going to push you and going to, like I said, be there, and has experience.
Yeah.
It just seems like a natural progression, and it seems I do like that Amy did, she was a little bit hurt, but overall took it really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she tells Ty that it stings a little bit, but she understands. And so they decide to go. That's when they decide to go to Pike River for a break. And sometimes I think like the little weekend breaks are the most relaxing than like a long trip, which can be fun, but it can be also exhausting, where it's just like a little break, a little staycation, maybe something like that for just a couple days. I think it's just so relaxing, and you don't have to worry about. It's not hard to prepare for. It's not hard to recover from. I don't know. I think it's nice.
Yeah, that's what I've done the last couple of years. I've just not been able to travel outside the country. Any sort of trip I've taken overseas, you need sort of a week to recover.
Yeah.
Not the same when you're, a couple hours from where you live.
Right. Yeah. And so then sorry, I lost my place again. And then so Georgie meets with Kim Price, and Kim says that she's interested in her, but she insists on riding a horse of her choosing, and the Phoenix is holding her back. And it's kind of interesting because Georgie spent a long time like barely paying attention to Phoenix.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm not sure how it works in terms of equestrian, sort of that level of equestrian, where is it you sort of get hired by a coach and then you ride their horses, or is it that you bring your own? Like, I'm not sure how that works. I have no idea, but yeah, it seems like George is sort of laying down the law on a coach that seems really, really hard to, even get to work with you. And also it feels like you would have, in case you get injured or your horse gets injured, that they would have backups, that it would be sort of like revolving horses and revolving sort of riders. That there's always a horse for you, that there's always a rider for the horse.
Yeah, and I would think that they have sort of the right uh, training regimen for the horse as well as for the rider.
Yeah.
You know, that they can do there, where, you know, Phoenix, just at Heartland, isn't going to have the same kind of food and regimen and things that you're going to have at where Kim's at.
Yeah, it feels like that's what Flame was. You know, he was, you know, a horse that was in need of a rider.
Mhm.
And it was, you know, whoever was best for him at the time. You know, it wasn't, you know, he was the sort
Yeah.
of the star.
Well, and like we said last time, equestrians athletes are often older. That you'll have athletes in their 40s and 50s. And so I don't understand why it seemed like with Flame, the only option was which teenager is going to ride.
Yeah.
But Amy and Ty try to integrate the mare and foal with Will's horses, and it's becoming difficult because of the stallion. That was a beautiful horse. That stallion.
Yeah, all of the horses and this episode were so good, and like I guess, like I said, I'm not sure if it was actual wild horses, but it certainly looked that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they had them, sort of, it was very clear the way that they had to sort of get that one horse to sort of accept,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the other horses into the fold. But yeah, it was sort of beautifully done.
Yeah, that was really good, very beautifully shot, and the confidence that Ty and Will both have in Amy is very sweet. You know, you're the
Yeah,
miracle girl.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
We do find out that Will's off of the booze and he made amends with his lady, which is
Yeah,
sweet.
it's so good. Yeah.
So he writes a song and he asks if Jack will put it to music. And so we get to see Sean playing the guitar, and that was very sweet. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that that's like a future sort of storyline of, you know, Jack getting back into his music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have Mitch and Lou, and Mitch says, "You're being weird." And Lou says that she's dating somebody. And
Oh my god, they're so like teenagery about this. So like they can't even have a conversation without Lou like making some lie up.
yeah. Well, and this is a total nitpick, but I do feel like they always over style Lou up. Like she's supposed to be, you know, just an everyday working on the farm kind of thing. And she looks like she got a professional blowout on her hair. And I don't know. I think they could make her a little bit more grounded sometimes. And I also just hated this whitewashed denim shirt that she was wearing in the scene. Again, it does not matter. It's just fashion, but I really didn't like it.
Yeah, they've got to always sort of hold on to the fact that Lou's a city girl, despite the
Mm-hmm.
fact that she's lived in Heartland for a decade.
Yeah, it would be nice, like I said, to have her be a little bit more grounded. I mean, she's mom of two, and you know, she was running like 3 businesses. She's not going to have her hair, you know, curled every day. But we also have Lisa saying that she's going to turn over her Fairfield clients to Amy and Ty. She's going to support them. That was very sweet.
Yeah.
And she's going to go to Istanbul. And Jack says, I love you. Lisa says, I love you more. That was sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that they sort of left on good terms, even though,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I question the storyline in general. yeah, it was nice that it was nice that he made peace with it in his own way.
Yeah. And then I did like when Jack says to Tim, "You're still here." It's funny.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No. So Kim Price and Georgie make a deal that if she's able to make a certain time on the course with Phoenix, then they'll allow her to ride him. And she starts out 5 seconds behind, which I think in like the world of professional sports is like a lot.
Yeah, it seems a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, most sports that I watch seem to be down to like the millisecond.
Yeah. And she gets down to 2 seconds and then down to 1 second. And so she agrees to allow her to race Phoenix, which again, like not that long ago, Georgie could care less, to the point where Jack had to ride Phoenix because it wasn't getting any attention.
Yeah.
But we find out that Tim decides to not propose to Casey, which is a bummer. But oh well, I guess. And
it sort of bugs me that the conversation sort of faded out, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're just never going to find out.
Yeah. It's like, how do you go from like not wanting to marry somebody to not wanting to be in a relationship with them at all?
Yeah.
It's a swing. But then we end with a scene between Amy and Georgie saying that maybe you do need someone like Kim to take you to the next level. Yeah, definitely. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
7.5.
I think that's good. I think that's true. It had a lot going on for one episode. There were a lot of characters that were involved, and you had a pretty good horse story. So I think it was a pretty good episode. All right. Then our last episode is called Just Breathe. And this episode is Ty is asked to mentor a troubled kid, but finding common ground proves harder than he expected. This is directed by Megan Follows, which is kind of fun. Who plays Ty's mom. And so this episode, I really liked everything with the little boy. I thought that was kind of classic Heartland. The stuff with the girlfriend with Maya and the horse yoga, I was less into. And her drama with Mitch and everything. But I really liked the kid stuff. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think this is such a great storyline for Ty. And by extension Amy. Yeah, this is such a good way to sort of bring Ty back into the fold, because it does feel like he's been gone for so long. And the little boy is such a good actor as well. I feel like they got a really good kid actor here.
Yeah, I agree. He was really cute. I could almost see him being the next Georgie.
Yeah, it feels like that's the way they're going, of like Georgie's sort of grown up and almost a high school senior now. So yeah, they need more kids.
Yeah.
And Katie isn't available apparently.
Right. And so Clint introduces them to this kid named Luke. He's really quiet. He's really brooding. He is upset, and so they're putting together this tree house. It was really more like a clubhouse than a tree house for Lindy. And I if I were Lou, I'd be a little irritated because Lindy has gotten way more attention than Katie ever got.
Yeah. I was all for it until, Tim brought out the fact that he'd been wanting to build this house for Amy and Louis for so long. But yeah, it makes no sense that he wouldn't build it for for Katie and Georgie.
Right. Yeah. Like even it started from the very beginning when they had the supposed heirloom bassinet thing, cradle.
Yeah.
Like, you only bring that out for Lindy. You don't bring it out for Katie. But it's the dynamic between Luke and Ty, and then even Luke and Tim was, interesting, because Tim gets getting pretty upset, tries to take his phone away, and that makes him run away. And he says he's a bit of a live wire, but so are you. That's what Clint says.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like the dynamic between Luke and Tim. It feels like there's a lot more there for the future.
Yeah.
And definitely intrigued on what's going on with his mum, because it feels like, is he even talking to his mum? Yeah. It feels like
And
we're in for some heartbreak with this kid.
it was so cute when Tim gave him his cowboy hat. I was like, that was peak Tim.
Yeah.
It was really cute. I like that. And they have this little talk about fighting, and about the fact that, like you said, that the kids at school said mean things about his mom. And that was Ty and Luke that did that. And he says, you get a fire inside you, so you lash out. And he says, how do you stop feeling that? He says, now I just breathe and the anger drains out of me. And he says, how long does it take? And it's a few minutes and sometimes a few years. And nobody's ever been arrested for breathing. It was a good moment.
It was a really good moment, and it shows just how much Ty's grown. It wasn't too long ago before he was, getting into fights, and
that's true with Caleb.
Yeah, every couple of episodes it seemed like.
Yeah, what's his name? Ashley's brother. I can't think of his name, but
yeah,
a fight with him. So we find out that Mitch is dating this woman, Maya, and she is basically like a kind of a hippie type. She's vegan, and she believes in gemstones. Yeah, I've seen all of this because I don't know if you knew, but my aunt is a like self-help guru person.
Okay.
She has a whole system called Dressing Your Truth, which I think it's fun. I have no problem with it. But yeah, she thinks that there's like energy from everything, and that there's particular types of energy, and she would be, I think, totally into this whole gemstone thing. But I mean, I think a lot of it is probably placebo, that you're looking for something to help you. And I mean, with mental health, like placebo is just as, like, if it helps you, then it's fine. Like placebo is just as good as anything else with mental health. But anyway, these gemstones. And what do you think about Maya?
Yeah, it does feel like they're sort of setting her up to get her heart broken. And it was sort of from 0 to 100 with their relationship. I mean, dropping the L-bomb. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We've just met this woman. And yeah, I agree. Like, as long as no one's hurting anyone else, they're open to believe whatever they want. As long as you're not, damaging, anyone around you. If you want to believe it, gems can, have the power of healing and all of these things, then, go for it. But yeah, it's a fun dynamic to bring into the Heartland world, which is very practical.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was sort of nice in that sense of bringing in a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they would be a kind of a bad match, her and Mitch, but you're always going to have differences with your partner. You're never going to believe exactly the same things and,
Yeah.
accept exactly the same things. That was one thing I always liked on Big Bang Theory, was like sort of like the differences between Penny and Leonard, that Leonard was all science and everything had to be kind of researched and everything. Whereas Penny, she, followed her horoscope and, did things like
Yeah.
that, which I think made Leonard grow as a character and be more interesting. So you can have that, but I don't know. I feel like these two aren't a very good match.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like a few differences here and there, but the amount of things that Mitch was listing of terms of like he, a few episodes was selling cattle for, a
Right.
restaurant
That's
and fried
true.
chicken and yeah, it just feels like they are, in a bit of a honeymoon period and those,
Yeah.
issues that aren't very much issues right now would, very much come between them eventually.
I also don't really understand why she cared so much that Lou and Mitch had dated. Who cares? I mean, at least from her perspective, there hadn't been anything. Lou hadn't behaved inappropriately at all. She'd been
Yeah.
very
Uh-huh.
nice. And I mean, they barely dated. They didn't even go on a date. And so it's not like she's his ex-wife or something like that.
Yeah. And it also feels like, Maya, it seems a little unreasonable that she would know every aspect of his life. Um, because like he said, in the episode, you know, there's lots of different things that she has interest in and different retreats and, he didn't even know that she was at the Dude Ranch. So
Mhm.
why would they sort of, reveal that? Um, and maybe he has told her about an ex, but she just didn't know that it was Lou.
Yeah, and I just don't understand why she would
And again,
care.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
she acted like this was a betrayal.
yeah. And for
What?
a change, like Lou was really good in this episode. She was
Hmm.
very sort of polite and
Yeah,
nice throughout the whole episode. So yeah, I don't see why it's an issue.
yeah. And so then we also have uh, Lou saying at the end that she's going to go back to New York. Something
Oh
came
my
up.
god, this bugged me so much. I was like, really? I thought we were done. They're
I guess
torturing me.
Katie is still in Vancouver, so why not knock yourself out? We also have Georgie uh, taking Maya's phone, which was weird.
Yeah, it
Um,
was a weird sort of moment, but I did love George and Wyatt just sort of reacting to everything in
oh
this
yeah, that
episode.
was fun.
That's
That's
so
true.
funny.
Yeah, but I don't know why Georgie seems so upset by the fact that I didn't think she was that attached to Mitch.
No, it feels like Katie was the one that was attached to Mitch.
Right. Yes, that's right. But as you say, Wyatt is back, and
uh,
he says, "I want to be your friend, and I'll avoid giving any relationship advice." Which I've said it many times, but that's all that you should be in high school. You should just be friends and have a good time together, because there's no point in it escalating, because most people aren't going to get married in high school. So you're just asking for a world of trouble if you have like some super serious relationship in high school. Just have fun. Just enjoy
uh,
each other. I don't know.
yeah. It feels like this show is very much the sort of high school sweetheart show, but we already have
Hmm.
that with Amy and Ty. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And my best friend in high school married her high school sweetheart, but it still wasn't until a couple of years later, and we we had we had fun uh, together. They're still married. They all these years later. That was in 2000. I think it was in 2000 actually that they got married. So amazing 22 years, high school sweethearts. But it's just sometimes a little more intense than I think like 99% of high school relationships are on shows like
Yeah,
these.
yeah, for sure. And we don't even know if they even go to high school together.
Right. That's true. Yeah, we haven't seen, and we saw a little of Amy going to school. We haven't seen any of Georgie going to school.
No, summer school, and that was sort of it.
Yeah. So that was the episode. I thought it was a pretty good one overall. I think I'd give this one an 8 as well.
Yeah, I agree. An 8.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you're listening what you think and what you would give these episodes. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your reviews, 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. We also have the Patreon group and merch store where we have Heartland inspired merch. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.